Loro Languaged Podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. This is your cozy corner for natural English practice and real-life conversations. I'm Jayden.
And I'm Aria. We are so happy to have you here with us today.
Now, before we jump into today's topic, we have one tiny favor to ask. If you enjoy listening to us, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It really helps other English learners find us.
Exactly. And we would also love it if you left a comment down below. It can be super simple. Just tell us where you're listening from or share your thoughts on today's topic.
And you know what? Typing a comment is actually a great way to practice your English without even realizing it. Your brain is working, choosing vocabulary, putting words in order. It is real practice.
That is so true. So please, don't be nervous about making mistakes. Even just one short sentence is totally fine. We genuinely love reading your thoughts.
All right, are you ready? Let's get right into today's topic.
I want to start today with a small story because this story made me realize something very uncomfortable about the phrase "I do not know."
That already sounds serious. What happened?
It was not serious at all. That is the funny part. It was such a normal moment. I was in a store after work. I was tired, a little hungry, and I just wanted to buy one thing and go home.
That is already a dangerous mood. Tired, hungry, and shopping after work.
Exactly. So I picked up two products from the same shelf. They looked almost identical. Same color, same size, same packaging style. But one was more expensive than the other.
Okay, so naturally you wanted to know the difference.
Right. I walked to the counter and asked the staff what the difference was between the two.
Very normal question.
Very normal. And he looked at the two products, looked at me, and said, "I do not know."
That is it?
That was it. No. Let me check. No, maybe this one has a different feature. No, I can ask someone, just "I do not know."
That is such a cold answer.
Yes. And the strange thing is, I was not angry at first. I was just stuck. I stood there holding the two products, and I did not know what to do next.
Because the conversation had nowhere to go.
Exactly. I did not want to be rude and say, "Can you please check?" But I also did not want to buy the wrong thing. So after a few seconds of awkward silence, I just said, "Okay," and put both products back.
You bought nothing?
Nothing. I left the store.
That is actually a really good example. One sentence changed the whole customer experience.
Yes! And that is when I started thinking, the problem was not that he did not know. Nobody knows everything. The problem was that his answer made me feel like he did not care.
So I do not know is not always just information. Sometimes it becomes a signal.
Exactly. It signals that this conversation is over. It signals that you are on your own now.
That is the real problem.
Yes. And today I want to talk about that because a lot of English learners say "I do not know" because they are nervous, not because they are rude.
That makes sense. In a second language, when your brain panics, you choose the safest sentence.
Right. But sometimes the safest sentence is not the most helpful sentence.
So today is not really about deleting "I do not know" forever.
No, it is about learning how to handle uncertainty better.
I like that. Handling uncertainty. That sounds much more useful.
Let us replay the store scene. Same products, same question, same staff member. I ask what the difference is between these two products. But this time, instead of saying, "I do not know," he says, "I'm not sure. Let me check for you."
Immediately better.
Completely different feeling. Now I feel like someone is helping me.
Even if he still does not know the answer.
Exactly. He could check the label, check the system, ask a coworker, or even say, "I am not 100% sure, but I think this one is the newer version." That would already feel more helpful.
Because there is effort.
Yes. Effort changes everything.
I think that is especially important at work. Customers do not expect you to be a walking encyclopedia, but they do expect you to try.
Exactly. And this applies to many jobs. Store staff, receptionists, servers, customer service, office workers. If someone asks a question and you do not know, your job is not always to know immediately. Your job is to respond professionally.
So give me some professional alternatives.
The simplest one is, I'm not sure. Let me check for you.
Very useful.
Another one is, let me double check that.
I like double check. It sounds careful, not clueless.
Yes, it makes you sound responsible. You are not saying I have no idea. You are saying I want to make sure I give you the right answer.
That is a much better feeling.
Another one is, I do not have that information in front of me right now, but I can find out.
That one is good for office situations.
Yes, if your boss asks for a number in a meeting, do not just say, I do not know.
That would be painful.
Very painful. Imagine your boss says, what was the total from last month? And you just say, I do not know.
Everyone at the table goes silent.
Exactly. But if you say, I do not have the exact number in front of me, but I can double check and send it to you after the meeting, you sound organized.
Same lack of information, completely different impression.
That is the whole point.
I think a lot of people confuse honesty with helplessness. They think if they do not know, the only honest thing to say is I do not know.
Yes, but there is a better kind of honesty. You can be honest and still be useful.
That is a great line. Honest and useful.
Exactly. I am not asking people to pretend they know. I actually hate when people pretend they know.
Oh, we need to talk about that too. The fake expert.
Yes, the person who would rather give a wrong answer than admit they are unsure.
I have met so many people like that.
Everyone has. You ask them something simple, and instead of saying, I'm not sure, they confidently invent an answer.
And they say it with such strong confidence that you almost believe them.
Exactly. That is the dangerous part. Confidence can make wrong information sound true.
That reminds me of asking for directions.
Perfect example.
You are in a new place. You ask someone where the train station is. They do not know. But instead of admitting that, they point down the street and say, go that way.
And you walk for 20 minutes in the wrong direction.
Then you realize they had no idea.
That is so frustrating. I would rather someone say, sorry, I am not from around here.
Yes, that is honest and useful.
Exactly. Or they could say, I'm not sure, but maybe you can check the map. That is still better than fake confidence.
So, our goal today is not to make people sound like they know everything.
No. The goal is to sound calm, helpful, and engaged when you do not know.
That is a very different skill.
And honestly, it is a life skill, not just an English skill.
Let us move to daily life, because I think this phrase causes a lot of small arguments at home.
I know exactly where you're going.
The dinner question.
The most dangerous question in every relationship.
What do you want to eat tonight?
And the answer is always, I do not know.
But the conversation does not end there. It gets worse.
Much worse. Because the other person says, okay, how about pizza? And then you say, no, I had pizza yesterday.
Then they say sushi,
Too expensive.
noodles,
Too heavy.
salad.
Too sad.
Salad is too sad.
Sometimes salad feels like punishment after a long day.
Fair enough.
But this is exactly the problem. You say, I do not know. But actually, you have many opinions. You just do not want to organize them.
So I do not know becomes a way to avoid the mental work of deciding.
Yes, and that puts all the pressure on the other person.
That is the mental load.
Exactly. Deciding what to eat sounds small, but after a long day, it can feel exhausting.
So what should we say instead?
Give a direction. Not a final answer, just a direction.
For example,
I'm not sure, but I want something warm. Or I do not want fast food today. Or I am too tired to decide. Can we choose something simple?
that is so much better than I do not know.
Yes, because now the other person has something to work with.
It becomes teamwork.
Exactly. And I think this is the real lesson. Good communication is not always about having the perfect answer. Sometimes it is about giving the other person enough information to continue with you.
That is very true.
And this works with friends too. If your friend asks, "What do you want to do this weekend?" and you say, "I do not know," the conversation becomes flat.
But if you say, I'm not sure, but I kind of want to get out of the house, that gives direction.
Yes, or I do not have a plan, but I would love something relaxing. Now your friend can suggest a cafe, a walk, a movie, something easy.
You are still uncertain, but you are participating.
Exactly. Participating is the key.
That is a good word. Sometimes I do not know sounds like you are not participating.
Yes. And people can feel that.
Let us talk about another situation. The brain freeze moment.
Oh, I hate this one.
You know the answer. You really do. But the moment someone asks you, your mind becomes empty.
Completely empty. Like someone turned off the lights.
This happens to me with names.
Same.
I can know someone for months. I can talk to them every week. Then one day I need to introduce them to someone else, and suddenly their name disappears from my brain
That is one of the most stressful social moments.
because they are standing right there.
And you're smiling like everything is fine, but inside you are screaming.
Exactly.
In that situation, saying, "I do not know" feels wrong because you do know. You just cannot access the information.
So what should you say?
Say, "I'm drawing a blank right now."
That is such a natural phrase.
Yes, it means my brain is empty for a moment. I know this, but I cannot remember it right now.
It also makes the situation feel less embarrassing.
Exactly. It makes you sound human.
Another phrase is, it is on the tip of my tongue.
Yes, that one is perfect when you almost remember something.
Like an actor's name, a restaurant name, a word in English.
Exactly. For English learners, this is so useful. Sometimes you know the word, but under pressure, it disappears.
Instead of panicking, you can say it is on the tip of my tongue. Give me a second.
Yes, that buys you time without making the conversation awkward.
And it invites the other person to help.
Exactly. They might say, "Is it this word?" Or "Do you mean this thing?"
So again, the conversation continues.
Yes, the goal is always to keep the conversation alive.
I like that. Keep the conversation alive.
Let us talk about parties or social events, because this is where people often pretend.
Oh yes, you are standing with a group of people, and they start talking about something you know absolutely nothing about.
Like cryptocurrency.
Or football.
Or wine.
Or some TV show everyone has watched except you.
Exactly. And everyone is laughing and giving opinions, and you are just standing there holding your drink, nodding like you understand.
That is a very lonely feeling.
It is. And the easy answer is to stay quiet or say, "I do not know," and disappear.
But there is a better way.
Yes. You can say, "I am not very familiar with that, but I would love to hear more."
That is such a good social phrase.
It is powerful because it does three things. First, it is honest. Second, it shows interest. Third, it gives the other person a chance to talk about something they enjoy.
People love explaining things they care about.
They really do. If someone is passionate about photography and you say, I do not know anything about cameras, they might just say, okay. But if you say, I do not know much about cameras, but what makes a camera good? Suddenly they light up.
They become the teacher.
Exactly. And people usually enjoy feeling knowledgeable, as long as you are genuinely curious.
So not knowing can actually become a connection point.
Yes, that is the beautiful part. You do not have to know everything to have a good conversation. You just need curiosity.
That is a much healthier way to look at it.
And this is especially helpful for English learners. Sometimes you do not know a topic, but you can still ask simple questions,
Like, how does that work?
or why do people like it?
Or when did you get interested in that?
Exactly. Those questions are simple, but they keep the conversation moving.
And they make the other person feel heard.
Yes, that matters more than sounding perfect.
Let us talk about another version of I do not know. The emotional version.
What do you mean?
Sometimes people ask, how do you feel? And we say, I do not know.
Oh, that one is deep.
Because sometimes we really do not know. We are tired, stressed, annoyed, overwhelmed, but we cannot name the feeling.
Yes, and in that case, I do not know is not lazy. It is honest.
But even then, we can make it more meaningful.
Exactly. Instead of just saying, I do not know, you can say, I'm not sure yet. I think I need a little time to process it.
That sounds much more mature.
Or I cannot explain it clearly right now, but something feels off.
That is very useful in relationships.
Very useful. Because if your partner asks what is wrong, and you just say, I do not know, they may feel shut out.
But if you say, I do not fully understand my feelings yet, but I know I need a little space, that gives them more information.
Exactly. Again, it is not about having a perfect answer. It is about giving direction.
I feel like direction is the theme today.
Yes. Do not give a wall. Give a direction.
That is a great summary.
And I think that is why I do not know can be so frustrating. It is a wall.
But I'm not sure. Let me check is a door.
Exactly. I love that image. One sentence closes the conversation. The other opens it.
Let us build a little toolbox for listeners.
Good idea.
At work, when you do not know the answer, say, I am not sure. Let me check for you.
Or let me double check that and get back to you.
Or I do not have that information in front of me right now, but I can find out.
In daily life, when you do not know what you want, say, I'm not sure, but I feel like something warm.
Or I do not have a strong preference, but maybe not fast food.
When your brain freezes, say, I am drawing a blank right now.
Or it is on the tip of my tongue.
In social situations, say, I am not very familiar with that. Can you tell me more?
And emotionally, say, I'm not sure how I feel yet, but I need a little time.
That is a very good list.
And none of these phrases are complicated.
Exactly. That is the best part. Natural English is not always advanced English. Sometimes natural English is just choosing the sentence that fits the moment.
That is important. A lot of learners think they need fancy vocabulary to sound fluent.
But fluency is often about small phrases.
And knowing when to use them.
Yes, because I do not know is not wrong. It is just too small for many situations.
Too small. I like that.
It gives no emotion, no effort, no direction.
So we need to make it bigger.
Exactly. Add a little effort. Add a little honesty. Add a next step.
That is how you sound more natural.
And more confident.
The funny thing is, admitting you do not know can actually make you sound more confident.
Yes, because confident people are not afraid of uncertainty.
Insecure people often pretend.
Exactly. Confident people can say, I'm not sure, but I can find out.
That is a very strong sentence.
It is. Because it says I do not need to fake knowledge to feel okay.
That is a life lesson.
It really is.
So next time you feel that panic moment, when someone asks a question and your brain wants to run away, pause for 1 second
Just 1 second.
and ask yourself, am I about to end the conversation, or can I keep it alive?
That 1 second pause can change everything.
It can make you sound more professional at work,
More thoughtful in relationships,
more natural in social situations.
and more confident in English.
So maybe the goal is not to stop saying, I do not know forever.
Right? The goal is to stop using it as an escape.
Use it when it is truly enough.
But when the moment needs more, give more.
Give a next step.
Give a small direction.
Give curiosity.
Give honesty with effort.
That is a beautiful way to end.
I think so too.
So for everyone listening, here is our challenge. For the next week, try to notice every time you want to say, I do not know.
And before you say it, pause.
Then choose one better phrase.
Maybe I'm not sure. Let me check.
Maybe I'm drawing a blank.
Maybe I'm not familiar with that. Can you tell me more?
Or maybe I need a little time to think about it.
And after a few days, you may notice something interesting.
People might respond to you differently.
They might trust you more.
They might talk to you more.
And you might feel less nervous when you do not know something.
Because not knowing is not the end of the conversation.
Sometimes it is the beginning of a better one.
Well, that brings us to the end of today's conversation.
We really hope you enjoyed it. And remember, no matter what you're struggling with right now, whether it is saving money, learning English, or just getting through the week, take it one step at a time. Be kind to yourself.
Absolutely. Learning a language is a journey, and you are doing great just by being here and listening.
If you found this episode helpful, or even just a little bit funny, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. It is the best way to support what we do.
And please don't forget to leave a comment down below. Tell us what you thought about today's topic, or just say hi. We read every single comment, and we love hearing from you.
Thank you so much for spending your time with us today. Keep practicing, keep speaking, and trust the process.
We will catch you in the next episode. Take care, everyone. Bye.